The flashing bulbs of the paparazzi, the velvet ropes, the glamorous yachting life. And then the heavy metal click of a detention center door.
Oh, man.
Just like that, a Bravo star traded a luxury yacht for dirty blankets on a cold floor. Hollywood, meet your newest, darkest reality check. Welcome to Starscope Report. Join Jordan and Jamie as they uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals. From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we delve deep into the stories behind the fame.
You know, we usually think of those two worlds, like the highly curated reality TV bubble and the grueling machinery of federal immigration enforcement, as just existing in entirely separate universes.
Right, completely separate.
But today's deep dive into our stack of sources shows exactly what happens when they collide at full speed.
And for you listening, I mean, that collision is going to take us into some incredibly uncharted territory today. We are pulling from a massive, eye-opening stack of material.
Yeah, really dense stack.
Seriously, we've got entertainment reports from TMZ and YouTube's Up and Adam too, all the way to a very dense federal class action legal declaration. We are going to see how a single Instagram post can land a celebrity in a holding cell.
Which is wild.
It really is. And we're going to see how an ongoing federal lawsuit is exposing the grim reality inside those cells, and how deportation is literally rewriting the script for some of the biggest stars on television right now.
I think the through line here is vulnerability. Like, we are watching people who make a living projecting total control suddenly lose all of it.
Exactly.
They lose it to a system that just does not care about their follower count.
It does not care at all. So let's jump right into that exact scenario with Natalya Scudder.
Right.
If you follow the Bravo universe, you know Natalya from seasons 7 and 8 of the hit show Below Deck. We're used to seeing her in these crisp white uniforms, managing mega yachts, navigating petty charter guest drama.
The usual Bravo stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly. But TMZ broke the story that Natalya recently found herself in a very real travel nightmare that ended with her locked inside a U.S. detention facility.
And the mechanism behind her detention is, well, it's what makes this a massive wake-up call for the entire influencer industry.
Yeah, explain that part because it's crazy.
So, authorities flagged photos she had taken in the United States during a previous visit. The government's claim was that by monetizing those specific photos, essentially cashing in on content created on U.S. soil, she was violating the terms of her visa.
I have to stop you there because the mechanics of this are wild to me.
Right.
You take a photo in a Miami hotel, a brand pays you for that post, month later, and suddenly federal authorities are pulling you aside at the airport.
Yeah, it's that fast.
It used to be that working illegally meant, getting caught washing dishes for under-the-table cash. Now, your Instagram account is essentially a public ledger of your undocumented labor.
Broadcasting your exact GPS coordinates straight to the government.
It is. That's actually the perfect analogy. Digital borders are enforced through data now. Visas for digital creators are this relatively new, incredibly rigid legal frontier.
Okay.
It's no longer just a binary between having a physical work visa or a tourist visa.
Okay.
The monetization of digital content completely blurs those lines.
So you can't just be a tourist and post an ad.
Exactly. If a creator publishes a sponsored post geotagged in a country where they only hold a tourist visa, well, automated systems and border agents can flag that as unauthorized commercial activity.
But playing devil's advocate here for a second, does ICE really have the time or resources to hunt down reality stars for posting a sponsored selfie?
That's a good question.
I mean, it feels like they would have much bigger priorities than a below-deck cast member cashing a brand deal.
Well, the thing is, it's not necessarily about a targeted hunt for reality stars. It's about the automated nature of modern customs and border enforcement.
So it's algorithms.
Yeah, algorithms scan public profiles, financial disclosures, and travel histories. So when a red flag is triggered in the system, the border agent at the desk has very little discretion. The rigid bureaucracy just kind of takes over.
Wow. And the reality of that bureaucracy, at least for Natalya, was brutal. She was told she could be held anywhere from 1 to 5 days.
Which is terrifying.
Truly. She detailed what she called a disgusting night in this facility. Page 6 in Gravy News noted her accounts of dirty blankets thrown on the floor, stains covering the walls, and having to dry herself with dirty clothes after washing up.
That's rough.
The whiplash of going from a VIP yachting lifestyle to a stained concrete floor is just staggering.
It really is. But, Natalya's celebrity status and financial resources eventually got her out and deported back to her home country.
Right.
But her brief encounter with that cell accidentally shines a massive spotlight on the thousands of people who do not have a camera crew or a high-powered legal team waiting for them on the outside.
Exactly. Natalya's night in detention was a nightmare. But for thousands of others, that nightmare doesn't end after one night.
No, it doesn't.
We got our hands on a massive legal declaration that exposes what's really happening behind those closed doors. And the details are absolutely chilling.
They really are.
Real quick, though, if you're loving these Hollywood twists and deep dives, make sure you're subscribed. We've got even crazier stories ahead.
So to truly understand the gravity of the system Natalya briefly brushed up against, we need to examine the Henrik Declaration.
Yes, let's get into this.
This is a federal class action lawsuit.
Yeah.
Specifically, it's case number 5.26 CV000322, filed against IC regarding the Adelanto IC Processing Center out in California.
And reading through these court filings, I mean, it strips away any remaining illusion of Hollywood glamour. We are moving from a celebrity visa mix-up into systemic institutional failure.
Absolutely.
And the facts presented in these documents are incredibly hard to stomach. Let's look at how the lawsuit details the daily reality of the food provided to detainees, because it is a major pillar of their legal argument.
Right. The food conditions are a huge part of this suit.
There is a detainee identified in the suit as AAA who is prescribed a strict medical diet.
Which, you know, in any standard medical or correctional facility, a prescribed diet is a non-negotiable health requirement. It's carefully tracked and managed.
Right. But the court documents allege her special diet consisted of occasionally receiving an apple.
Just an apple.
Just an apple. And worse, it was served alongside meals that were entirely inedible. She describes plates where chocolate cake was literally mushed into beans and burnt lettuce.
That is just so demeaning.
It gets worse. At one point, she found mold on her tortilla, and when she asked a guard for a replacement, the guard instructed her to, quote, just pick off the moldy piece.
Oh.
She lost 15 pounds simply because she couldn't consume the rotting food. And then another detainee testified the meat provided smelled and tasted like cat food, literally driving people to dig through the garbage looking for anything edible.
That is horrific. And the legal framework of this lawsuit is crucial to understand here.
Break that down for us.
So the plaintiffs are not suing just because the kitchen is poorly managed. They are arguing that these conditions cross the legal threshold into punitive conditions.
Okay.
Immigration detention is classified as civil confinement, right?
Yeah.
It's not criminal punishment. Legally, you cannot subject civil detainees to punitive conditions.
I see.
So when basic necessities like edible food and clean water are contaminated or withheld, the legal argument is that it ceases to be administrative negligence and becomes a form of psychological and physical punishment.
Well, I want to push back on that distinction between negligence and punishment for a second.
Sure.
When you have a massive facility processing thousands of people, isn't it highly likely this is just, severe bureaucratic incompetence and underfunding rather than a deliberate strategy to punish people?
And that is precisely the defense often mounted by the agencies involved. They argue that administrative overload leads to systemic cracks.
Right, like they're just overwhelmed.
Exactly. But the Henrik Declaration attempts to establish a documented pattern. In civil rights litigation, if you can prove that authorities have been made aware of severe deprivations like moldy food or undrinkable water, and they repeatedly fail to correct them, that deliberate indifference legally morphs into punitive action.
Oh, wow.
Intentional or not, the environment itself becomes the weapon.
That makes a lot of sense. And the lawsuit details how that environment extends to profound medical neglect. There was a devastating account from a detainee identified as AK who was 13 weeks pregnant.
Yeah, this part is incredibly tough to read.
The filing states she was apprehended outside her home by masked agents who smashed her car window while her partner watched helplessly on a video call.
Unbelievable.
Once inside Adelanto, she was dealing with the physical stress of the pregnancy, back pain, and a severe infection. The lawsuit alleges she was subjected to medical coercion. She was told to take unfamiliar medication, and when she questioned it, a medical provider threatened her with deportation if she didn't swallow the pills.
And that specific allegation of medical coercion, it strikes at the very heart of the class action suit. It illustrates how the power dynamic inside these facilities can be weaponized to strip individuals of their bodily autonomy.
It's terrifying. And this brings up the most jarring takeaway from these documents. We're reading testimonies of detainees who are literally begging to give up their legal asylum cases.
Yeah.
They're opting to be deported back to countries where they might face torture or extreme violence solely to escape the walls of Atlanta.
That phenomenon is often referred to as self-deportation, but the lawsuit frames it as environmental coercion.
Meaning the environment is forcing their hand.
Exactly. When the conditions of confinement are so degrading, when medical emergencies are ignored and you are starving, choosing to leave is no longer a free legal decision. It is a desperate survival tactic.
Wow.
They aren't abandoning their asylum claims. They are fleeing the facility itself.
It's incredibly heavy for you listening at home, I know, but we are looking squarely at the reality being argued in federal court right now.
Yeah.
The contrast is what makes this deep dive so surreal. You have a Bravo star who endures a fraction of this for one night, gets deported, and returns to a lucrative influencer life.
Right.
And then you have thousands of nameless individuals for whom this is a seemingly endless reality.
It really forces us to confront how wildly different the consequences of the exact same immigration system can be, depending entirely on the capital, both financial and social, that you bring to the table.
So true. And speaking of social capital, we've seen how one Bravo star escaped the system while thousands remain trapped in it. But later in the deep dive, we'll talk about the shocking twist nobody saw coming. A reality TV ex-husband who was just deported and is now trying to sell you merchandise about it. You literally can't make this up.
You really can't. The reality TV ecosystem has a unique ability to metabolize real-world consequences into content.
It is the most bizarre defense mechanism I have ever seen. So let's look at the Real Housewives of Atlanta universe.
Oh boy.
According to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Simon Guobadia, a Nigerian businessman and the now ex-husband of RHOA star Porsha Williams, has officially been deported to Nigeria following his own stint in a Georgia ICE detention center.
Now, the historical context for Simon is quite different from Natalya Scudder's sudden visa error.
Right, this wasn't a one-off Instagram post.
No, not at all. Simon's legal filings reveal a long, highly documented history of immigration battles. He actually has prior deportations dating all the way back to 1985 and 1992. This was the culmination of decades of legal maneuvering finally hitting a hard wall.
But the timing of this deportation created an unbelievable legal domino effect. Simon was in the middle of a vicious, highly publicized defamation lawsuit against Porsha.
Over some very specific allegations.
Yes. He sued her because she implied on social media that he suffered from erectile dysfunction.
Which is just classic Bravo drama.
Right. So you have these high-powered lawyers gearing up for a multi-million-dollar, incredibly petty civil trial in Atlanta. And suddenly, Simon's legal team has to drop the entire lawsuit.
And the mechanism here is a fascinating intersection of civil and federal law.
How does that work?
So in a civil defamation trial, the plaintiff is generally required to be physically present for depositions, cross-examinations, and the trial itself.
Okay, that makes sense.
But federal immigration law supersedes civil litigation. Once Simon was deported, it became physically impossible for him to fulfill the court's requirements for his own lawsuit.
Wow.
He maintained that his defamation claims had merit, but the sheer geography of his deportation forced him to seek a voluntary dismissal.
He literally got deported out of his own erectile dysfunction lawsuit.
I mean, that is wild.
Truly.
But because this is the Bravo-verse, the story does not end with a quiet flight back to Nigeria. Up and at 'em. 2 revealed that Simon reportedly left in, quote, good spirits, and is already launching an ICE prison reform merch line from overseas.
It's just that pivot perfectly encapsulates the psychological machinery of modern reality television.
Exactly. I want to really dig into that because going from a defamation lawsuit against your Real Housewives ex-wife to a federal holding cell to instantly dropping a streetwear line about prison reform.
It's a lot.
It is the ultimate late-stage reality TV reflex. Everything, even a traumatizing run-in with federal law enforcement, is immediately processed as inventory demonetized. Sell the t-shirt, secure the bag.
It reveals a culture where visibility is the ultimate currency. But, if we pull the lens back, Simon is just one piece of a much larger puzzle.
Right.
Immigration and deportation are currently fracturing the entire Bravo universe, creating a stark political divide among the stars themselves.
We are seeing it play out in real time across different franchises right now.
We really are. Look at Joe Giudice from the Real Housewives of New Jersey.
Oh, yeah.
Joe was deported to Italy after serving a federal prison sentence because, despite growing up in the United States, he had never officially naturalized as a citizen.
I remember the whole saga.
Today, she has leaned heavily into a specific political identity. He's frequently posting pro-Trump, Magie content.
Interesting.
Sociologically, it is a fascinating reaction. You have someone adopting the fierce political rhetoric of the exact same governmental apparatus that removed him from the country.
And then you flip the coin to the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, where Bronwyn Newport is taking the exact opposite approach.
Right.
She is actively using her platform to defend immigrants, pushing social justice guides to her followers, and publicly supporting anti-ICE protesters during raids in Los Angeles.
It's a huge contrast. We are observing how highly polarized real-world political climates are infiltrating the traditionally escapist bubble of pop culture. These reality figures are encountering the exact same systemic issues, but they are processing them in completely opposite directions, pulling their respective audiences along with them.
You really can't just watch these shows for the petty drama anymore. The heavy realities of the world are kicking the door down.
They really are.
Though, just to prove that the petty drama hasn't completely vanished, the Giudice family is still providing plenty of it stateside.
Of course they are.
Gia Giudice is reportedly moving out of Teresa's house and is already teasing major tension on the upcoming Bravo spinoff, Next Gen NYC.
Oh, I've heard about this.
Yeah, the rumors are that cast members are getting into screaming matches over things as ridiculous as people refusing to wash their hands before giving hugs.
The contrast is almost dizzying.
I know.
In one breath, we are analyzing federal class action lawsuits over systemic deprivation, and in the next, we are discussing reality stars having meltdowns over hand hygiene.
That is the ultimate duality of pop culture right there. Stay tuned and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next, because we're always going to track how these ridiculous moments connect to the bigger picture.
And finding those connections is exactly why we dig into these sources in the first place.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? We usually turn to reality TV, celebrity gossip, and influencer culture to escape our own lives.
Yeah, we want the distraction.
We want to see the mega yachts, the mansions, and the trivial arguments. But today's deep dive showed us how the harsh, unyielding mechanics of the U.S. legal and immigration systems can pierce right through that glamorous bubble.
Completely shatter it.
We saw with Natalya Scudder trading a yacht for a stained cell because of a monetized Instagram post. We saw the heartbreaking court-documented allegations of systemic neglect and coercion in the Adelanto lawsuit.
Yeah.
And we saw the sheer absurdity of Simon Guobadia dropping a lawsuit over his reputation from across the globe, only to try and sell his ICE reform merchandise.
As we wrap up this deep dive, there is a final thought I want you to consider. We have just spent our time exploring how reality TV stars, individuals armed with massive platforms, significant financial resources, and undeniable cultural influence, can be swept up so quickly and mercilessly into the grim gears of the system.
Right.
If someone with a camera crew and a high-powered legal team can find themselves detained over a digital photo, how terrifyingly vulnerable does that make the average person who has no voice, no money, and no platform?
That's a scary thought.
And furthermore, as we watch these celebrities immediately monetize their legal traumas like launching merch lines from abroad, we have to ask ourselves a difficult question. Where exactly is the line between raising genuine awareness for a broken system and shamelessly exploiting that system for personal clout and profit?
Wow. That question is definitely going to stick with me. You've been listening to Starscope Report, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.